the Middle-aged Bodcast. Getting older, but having some laughs.
Welcome to the Christmas special of the Middle-aged Bodcast with me, Raging Rich.
And me, T.A. Shelano.
And not only us two today, we are joined by Dan from Casting Views / Dan P from Gaming Views. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, and thank you. Yeah. The that slash in the middle is quite important now. Yeah. I was going to say, Dan P, that's quite, but then I realised, the co-host is Dan, and I seem to, in my personal life, just hang around with people called Dan, which gets very confusing. So, yeah. But no, good to see you both again.
Yeah, really good to see you as well.
Yeah, thank you. And you are the first person to appear more than once on this show, other than obviously Rich and I. And Rich and I have invented a rule that nobody can appear as a guest twice. So you are here as a guest co-host, which means that you get a 1/3 share of the money. The only problem is 0 divided by 3 is the same as 0 divided by 2. But you are more than welcome as our first person to make a second appearance.
We'll send you a coaster, Dan.
Oh, there we go. Yes, please. Yes.
Send you a coaster.
Well, thank you for that honour. That's brilliant. Yeah.
You joined us in, you're our first guest of season 2 in what was our 13th episode. And you are here for episode number 59.
Look at you guys go. And just saying, your pod's just going from strength to strength. So congrats to the two of you. Yeah, because it was great speaking to you then. But yeah, sort of keeping in touch with or keeping up with what you guys are both doing and your second book as well, Mr. Shelano. So yeah, going from strength to strength.
Thank you very much. That's been another labour of love. But it's been an entertainment, that's for sure. But yeah, no, thanks for coming back. And nice for you to say that, considering you did like 200 episodes you surpassed, obviously, this year on Casting Views, and obviously you've been doing Gaming Views as well. So, yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah, we're really pleased to have you here. It is, of course, our Christmas special. We have decided, last year we did Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Thank you very much for agreeing with us that it is.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100% come at me.
This is, of course, a bit of a different Christmas movie that we're looking at, one that is probably considered a more traditional one. But we kind of felt we needed something else for this episode. So we've got a little message for you, Dan.
Hi, I'm Kristen Minter, also known as Heather McAllister, for the Middle-aged Bodcast. I'm not even sure I'm middle-aged anymore. And maybe this is a podcast and it's not a podcast. I'm screwing it up because I am the queen of mistakes. Anyway, I am here for their Christmas special for Home Alone's 35th anniversary, and I am giving shout-outs to hosts Raging Rich and T.A. Shelano, plus guest host Dan from Casting.
Oh, look at that.
So I cannot give a nod to Heather miscounting because I didn't miscount. I counted the wrong kid because the neighbors let their kid out in the middle of winter in the morning to play in someone else's van. I mean, who does that? But I will never live this down. No one thinks I can count. I have this conversation all the time. It's never going to change. But I hope everybody has the greatest Christmas ever this year. And I'm super proud to be part of Home Alone and its 35th anniversary. Thank you so much for asking me to give the shout-outs. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Oh, look at that. Christmas is May. Well, thank you very much to you two and to Kristen. Wow, look at that. That's superb. That's brilliant. Can end the episode there. Sorry, I'm happy there. Yeah.
That's it. We can finish now. We're finished on a high. Don't need to talk about the film. We're done.
And there is one last surprise because, as, of course, Rich alluded to, he didn't notice for quite a long time having me joined him at his house. He never mentioned the fact I hadn't removed my coat, which is probably making quite a lot of rustling sounds. So I will now, Rich knows what it's going to be because he's seen it before. That sounds suspicious. But
oh, my God. What has this turned into?
So, drum roll. No full Monty music, please. But here we go. I am wearing my Home Alone Christmas jumper. Can you see?
You might. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Brilliant.
It's for those obviously listening because they're not watching this. We're just showing Dan my Home Alone Christmas jumper, which says "Merry Christmas, you filthy animal" on it.
We'll take a photo of that and put that on the socials as well.
Of the we can get the jumper.
Yeah, we'll
but
get
there we
that.
go. So I'll take this
Brilliant.
coat off, Rich, because I know you're going to be irritated if this is making sound. So. So is it allowed to stay in the room?
You can stay in the room. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay,
As long as it's not rustling around, we're all right.
See, I didn't have. I forgot to put my Christmas jumper on, but I've put this big cardi on to give the Christmas vibe. But my wife's got the heating on as well, so I'm probably going to lose about a stone during this this recording.
Well, it is Christmas.
Absolutely.
It's Christmas. So, you've got to get into the spirit. And I thought, you know what? I had this thought today.
Brilliant.
And I was like, right, I'm going to have to wear that for the episode. So.
See, my best Christmas jumper is like Becky Lynch from the WWE, so I can't even wear my one really as a theme for this.
So, shall we crack on then with the 35th anniversary of Home Alone? And are we giving first word on this to Dan, of your views of this film?
Yeah, I mean, I'll sum it up quickly. Yeah, I love this film. I think this is just a great Christmas film, right? And the funny thing was, I watched it again just recently, just to make sure, kind of, I'd caught some of the nuances again. And it's like, yeah, I think you said it yourself. It's kind of traditional in the sense of it's at Christmas, but it just plays on everything. I mean, from the chaotic family to the the family what's the word, like not family divide, but how the interaction of them in that dinner party and how Kevin feels like he's the quiet one. I said to my wife, without wanting to go into kind of like all like my childhood upbringing, but it's like I grew up in an Italian family, so gatherings were massive and I was probably like the quieter one, and I said it felt like a Christmas gathering or a party sort of at my house growing up, where you've got everything going on and it's just pure chaos. It's just great. Slapstick comedy, the heartfelt bit, which felt obligatory in the 90s, to kind of get that in. I just think it's a brilliant Christmas film. And some great characters in it and some great performances. I mean, Joe Pesci, for me, it will always stand out as a great role for him. But yeah, for me, it's a has to be watched film at Christmas.
Now, I did declare during our Christmas special last year, although we covered his Die Hard, a Christmas film, Rich and I did do our top 3 Christmas films each in that episode, and I did declare this is my favourite Christmas film. So okay. I'm obviously going to be very much on the side of massive love for this film, to the point whereby I haven't even had to watch it again. I mean, I watch it every Christmas Eve, and I've not had to watch it again. I'll be obviously watching that tomorrow night. If you're listening on the day this goes out, 23rd of December. But yeah, so I'm interested very much more, obviously, in your view, and then Rich's view, because I think he's rewatched it recently as well.
I have, yeah. I haven't watched it for a little while. I do love Home Alone, and I want to point that out. If I had a top 5, it's in the top 5. I just don't think it's probably in my top 3, purely on probably recency bias of certain things that I've seen. My favourite Christmas film, just for the record, is the 90s version of Miracle on 34th Street, the one with Richard Attenborough. I absolutely love that film. And then I was trying to think of other ones, and I was going, well, is it Elf? Is it Home Alone? Home Alone probably could creep into the top 3. And there is actually a link to my other favourite Christmas film with Home Alone, which is Christmas with the Cranks.
Yes,
because
okay.
Obviously this was Home Alone was directed by Chris Columbus, and he also directed the sequel. The other sequels we'll get into at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, the whole Home Alone connected universe, right?
It's just the law of diminishing returns, isn't it? After the second one,
yes,
it's crazy. But Chris Columbus actually did write and produce Christmas with the Cranks, which is my other favourite Christmas film, and that's the one that I always end up watching with my parents. I end up going around and watching it with them every year. In fact, my mum said, "Well, now you're with Ruth, you're not going to want to come and watch Christmas with the Cranks, are you?" I was like, I'll come and watch it. What are you on about? I'll come and watch it. So I think that'll still be happening at some point. But yeah, I do love Home Alone. Rewatching it, it was really interesting to see kind of just bits you forgot, and sort of various actors that have cropped up in other things. I've done a little bit of research. I found out a few things. We did see some clips from a really cool podcast called The Confused Breakfast and their theories on Home Alone, which we'll get into at some point as well. But yeah, I think it's a really good film, and definitely that last little part where the wet bandits go to the house and Kevin defending the house from them. I do have one little thing I take a little bit of issue with in a light-hearted sense, which I'll come to as we sort of go through the film. But yeah, I think it's brilliant. I really do. And I actually, having watched the first one again, am keen to watch the second one, which actually I'd watched prior to rewatching the first one. I'd watched the second one a bit more recently, but yeah, I'm gonna go and watch the second one definitely. And
well, that was another reason for me watching it again, was just because I probably hadn't seen it. I can't even remember, because we've got in my house now, there's a few Christmas films that need to be watched. And Home Alone isn't on my wife's list. She doesn't particularly like that film. So I watched it again just to see if it's aged well. And I don't necessarily mean, sort of in the politically correct sense, but just as a film, because, it is 35 years old, right? But yeah, I think you can watch it now and it feels just as it did all those years ago. There's nothing that really dates it, maybe save a couple of haircuts, hairstyles, coats, but there's nothing really that dates it or ages it too much. So it really does feel like it's a film that has and can stand the test of time in that sense.
I'm going to have to ask, because you just said that obviously your wife doesn't like Home Alone. Now, one of the, I wouldn't say criticisms, but sort of issues with our Is Die Hard a Christmas film episode actually was we were a little bit biased or one way about Die Hard, perhaps, and we didn't really have a counter view. I'd be interested in the sense of what your wife doesn't like about it, to bring a counter view to this episode.
She's not really a fan of that real chaotic slapstick kind of comedy. So she much prefers like just a sort of just like normal conversational comedy or scenario based. But I think in Home Alone, it's a lot of the chaotic, it's a lot of slapstick, it's a little bit OTT, which I think, again, it's a little bit the 90s, right? And I'm not even necessarily talking about that last half hour, but, the dinner section at the start and how they are kind of over the top mean probably to him. So I think it's not that she necessarily, there's any particular thing in the film she disliked. It's more that it's not her style of comedy in that sense.
I mean, there is some interesting things around the film. I know there was one studio meant to make it, then there was budget issues and it ended up elsewhere. And in the end, off a budget of $18 million, could you hazard a guess, Dan, at what the return at the box office was? Bear in mind, it was 35 years ago, so, inflationary adjustments and all that.
So what did you say the budget was, sorry?
$18 million.
18. I remember, this is a thing, right? So this is me just trying to buy a bit of time. So it's another reason why I like it is because it stands, it's one from my childhood. And she's a bit older than me as well, so probably that there's a thing there. So it's something that stands with me because it was, I would have been, sort of 12 at the time. I remember it was a phenomenal success. So I don't know. I think it's going to have made more, definitely. 30 years ago. Let's say 30.
So a return of 30 on 18?
Yeah, I think it would have made more. Or is that crazy talk?
Well, you're going to be shocked, Dan. The box office return on 18 million was $476.7 million.
Just a little out. Just a little
I think
bit.
By anybody's metric is a success.
Can we? Can I say it again? Can you cut that bit out?
Yeah. I mean, for the benefit, if you just go close and go 476.6.
Sorry, I said 300. Did you miss the zero off? Wow, that is. I mean, I remember it being like a phenomenon at the time, but yeah, I didn't think that much. Wow.
I mean, I suppose in terms of what you were saying around the slapstick probably leads us a bit neatly into, I suppose, some of the stunt work and some of those other things and whatnot. So, Rich, what's your view around some of the stunts in this?
Well, sort of even sort of the early on parts of the movie, you mentioned there the dinner party and sort of the bit with the pizza. I mean, although it's not per se a stunt thing. The choreography behind it and everything that they do, I think that's really well done. My thing in my notes that I did point out actually about that dinner party is Buzz eats Kevin's pizza, and yet when he eats it, the pizza arrives. They're running down the stairs. Kevin is right behind him. So how quickly does he eat that pizza? Because he eats a whole cheese pizza, and Kevin was right behind him.
If you see me near a pizza, you'll know how quickly it can be eaten.
I was going to say, for a man as well, Rich, who lives 30 steps from a pizza shop, I can't believe that's the first thing that you've gone after.
Well, no, I just thought it was one of the things, to say. But yeah, the choreography side of things and all the stunt work, I think it's brilliant. And the thing we discovered quite recently, well, I discovered it quite recently, is that Macaulay Culkin's stunt double was actually a 30-year-old man called Larry. And I just thought, wow, like, it's mad to think, like, as you sort of look back, kind of on the stunts and on the things, you think, oh yeah, of course there'd be stunt doubles for some of this. It wouldn't just be him doing it.
I mean, I suppose the other issue with that is it's not like you can substitute. He's 8 or 9 at the time of filming this. It's not like you go, well, let's get a kid that's a little bit older that can still ask for a child and put them through loads of dangerous stuff. Because even in 1990, health and safety, I think, wouldn't really have gone for that. So I suppose you've got to find an adult, really.
It's a testament, though, to Home Alone and how they did it. Because I don't know if you've seen it, Dan, but Kick-Ass 2, have you seen that?
No, I've not seen the second one, no.
So there's a scene in there, I won't give too much of it away, but there is a scene where Hit Girl is sort of on top of a van, and she ends up trying to get into the van, and she's hanging on to the door of the van, and you can blatantly tell that at certain times it is not Chloe Grace Moretz, because she's grown a few feet and then she's suddenly the same, back to her usual height. Whereas with this, you don't notice any of that. And considering this is such an older film, the fact that they have put that much attention to detail into it is phenomenal. The
one I remember that sticks out for me, where it would obviously not have been him, and they were doing it really well with the camera angles, is where he goes into Buzz's room and climbs the shelving, and it all falls down. And I think the way they shot that angle as well, you wouldn't pick out from the back and whatnot that it's not him, or just filming in a certain way wouldn't give it away, which I think is what you're alluding to there with that scene.
Do you know what?
It's quite clever then, isn't it?
I'm thinking about it, and I wouldn't have even thought about there being a stunt double. That says it all. It's not something that would have even entered my head watching that, and the amount of times I've watched it either. So yeah, that's a testament to that, right?
Well, and there's a few in there, isn't there? Because I suppose there's the bit where he goes down the stairs on the sled.
Yeah. We all wanted to do that, right?
He probably wanted to do that. And at the end of the film, you've got, obviously going across the rope.
Oh,
yes. That was, I remember, that was shot back out from a distance as well, wasn't it? So again, if you're trying to conceal, so it's very well sort of shot and sort of edited in that sense. But I think beyond, obviously, Larry, who sort of stunt doubled for Macaulay, you got to give a bit of a shout out to the guys stunt doubling for Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, because I actually think they did win awards. I seem to remember for that. I mean, you look at some of the stuff they were doing, and it was genuinely, the cold Chicago going down the stairs on your backside scenario is it's proper good stunt. It's old fashioned stunt work, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And it's and that is a live action Tom and Jerry cartoon at that point. So there's a lot of proper over the top stunts, isn't there? And it looks painful watching it now, 30 years later. It's again, that's what I'm saying. I know a lot of people probably have a bit of an issue with that element, like the violence. And I'm like, come on, it's a film. It's a comedy.
I think you probably hit the nail on the head, actually, in terms of it is a little bit like a live film version of a cartoon.
Yeah.
But the cartoon stuff we all used to watch with that in, as you say, the Tom and Jerry and the like.
Yeah.
It is kind of a bit like that. And of course they've sort of shot it in that way. But you're right. I suppose the idea of having adults, burgling a kid at home alone and him then becoming
that's the worst bit of it, right? That's the worst bit, that they're targeting a kid alone, in a house.
Because, of course, did you know there was a bit of a tetchy moment between Joe Pesci and Macaulay Culkin during the film. I don't know if either of you heard about that.
I'm not sure about that.
No.
So when he, I'm not, spoiler alert, 35 years in, but I'm sure if you're listening to this, you've seen the film, where they sort of catch up with him towards the end, and they hang him on the back of that door in the bathroom. When Joe Pesci basically says he's going to bite Macaulay Culkin's fingers off, he actually, he puts his hand to his mouth, and Joe Pesci actually bit into Macaulay's hand. And apparently Macaulay Culkin, I mean, bear in mind, precocious young kid, basically, I think, said to Joe Pesci, I don't care you're an Oscar-winning actor, you've just hurt me. It's like quite an interesting...
Now you've said that, it does ring a bell that actually I'm sure there was something recently with Macaulay Culkin, and he actually says he's still got the scar from Joe Pesci biting him on Home Alone on his finger. So, yeah.
I did read some of that Joe intentionally avoided Macaulay Culkin during the filming to make him come across as meaner to him. So when they were in the scene together, so I read that, yeah, he was intentionally avoiding him on the set when they weren't together, just to keep up that or make it more impactful when he was kind of wanting to attack him as such.
They do a lot of that on films, don't they? Where people stay in character and they, literally to keep that facade up between takes and all the rest of it. I suppose, if you're trying to think, it helps, I suppose, if you like. If you don't mix with people as well. Yeah. In terms of then you're not having that social angle of like you are more distant when you're actually doing the scenes. But biting through his finger and leaving a scar may be a bit too far. Yeah,
that's probably a little bit too method, right?
It's just too much.
But for me, sorry, if we were just going back to the dinner party, if you were to tell me if I hadn't watched it, the couple of the things that to me have always stood out in my mind is more Kieran Culkin. So it's his oversized glasses and it's him holding that cup, that glass that looks about 3 times bigger than it should be for him. And then when he gets sort of squeezed against the wall with the chair, that it's those bits. It's more Kieran Culkin that stands out in my mind from that opening scene. It always has done.
It's very true, actually. You saying that and watching it back, because of course now he's won his Oscar and he's more prevalent than Macaulay and everything. And you do notice him more in this film, more and more as it sort of, you're watching it and going, oh yeah, I've seen it. And then you go, hang on a minute. He went on to being like Scott Pilgrim versus the World and all these other films I like. And you're going, oh, actually I've seen Kieran Culkin probably in more things now than I've seen Macaulay Culkin in.
Well, yeah, and even as a child, he also starred opposite Jean-Claude Van Damme in Nowhere to Run.
God, yeah.
So, he was... Yeah, everyone thinks about Macaulay Culkin, but actually Kieran, in that sense, was also in... he's had a bigger part to play in that film with Jean-Claude Van Damme. And I wouldn't imagine, no offence to Jean-Claude Van Damme, that... Jean-Claude Van Damme is the inspiration for him going on to win an Oscar all these years later.
That's the beauty of revisiting a film 30 years later, though, is you've got 30 years of careers in between, and then you say, oh, that's so-and-so. And then it's funny what you then attribute them to. Like, for me, Catherine O'Hara will always now be Moira Rose, right, from Schitt's Creek.
Yes.
And that's it. And you got Mr. Heckles from Friends in there. And that's what, even though it was only like 2 or 3 episodes he was probably in of that, whenever I see him, he's always now Mr. Heckles. That's the funny thing. So when I looked up, I had to actually look up and say, that's him.
Well, we've got some facts about some other cast members as well, haven't we, Rich?
We have indeed. So there's a few people that appear in this that they're obviously only in sort of short bursts for some of this. So I'm going to really butcher some of these names as well. So if by any chance the actors involved do ever hear any of this, I'm really sorry in advance. But there's Michael C. Morona, who played Kevin's older brother, Jeff. And he actually had a role in the 90s Nickelodeon TV show, The Adventures of Pete and Pete.
I'm sure I know that.
Now, you may remember that the other Pete was actually played by an actor who'd been in the Mighty Ducks movies.
Okay.
So yeah, that was around the time of like Clarissa Explains It All and those kind of shows. But then you've got, and this is the one that I'm going to get really badly wrong, I'm sure, Angela Goethals, who played Linny, Kevin's older sister. She's in day 4 of 24. And this is, again, just random thing. Like, I was watching 24 a few years back for the first time, and I'm going, she was in Home Alone. I'm sure she was. I'm looking all that up. And then we've got Hilary Wolff, who was Kevin's sister Megan, who actually went on to become an Olympic judo champion.
Wow.
And of course, the dad from Home Alone,
John Hurd.
He actually was in the Sharknado movies as well, randomly.
He was in everything at some point, wasn't he? He was in everything.
Oh, he was, definitely.
Loads of stuff, John Hurd.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, they're kind of the actors that have sort of all done something in or around, mainly with films. Kristen Minter actually made a film with Vanilla Ice shortly after Home Alone as well. And I found out randomly today, when I was looking up a few things prior to us recording, she's also in Highlander, the TV show, for a few episodes as well. And I did used to watch that, so I'm pretty sure I must have seen her in that at some point. But of course, the big sort of cameo, the big acting cameo that happens is, of course, John Candy, who appears as Gus Polinski. And he did that as a favour to John Hughes. So he'd worked with John Hughes on Planes, Trains and Automobiles. And he filmed all of his scenes for this film in one day. And he was paid just $414. He actually earned less than Danny Warhol, who played the pizza delivery guy.
Wow. That's a brilliant fact there. And then, isn't it? I mean, John Candy was great, wasn't he? I mean, again, as people of a certain age, and I'm not necessarily going to lump you two in it, but people of a certain age, John Candy again, it was like your childhood as well, wasn't it? No, all I was going to say was that bit just was very Planes, Trains and Automobile, wasn't it? That bit. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing, but yeah, it was great just to have him in that film, even if it was just for like 5 minutes.
You could certainly see the inspiration. I was just going to say, have you seen the documentary on Amazon about John Candy's life that's out now?
No, I haven't actually, no.
We just watched that recently, my wife and I. I really recommend that. It's very moving. It makes you very quite sad, but they do interview so many people he worked with, like Steve Martin and Macaulay Culkin and Catherine O'Hara. And Macaulay Culkin actually spoke very, very highly of working with him. So I do recommend that.
Well, of course, Macaulay Culkin didn't actually work with him in Home Alone, did he? He worked with him in Uncle Buck. Which is another film that I absolutely love with Macaulay Culkin in it. Yeah. But yeah, this is I haven't seen the documentary yet either, and I've heard really good things about it.
I mean, the Uncle Buck really was the kind of catalyst for him being cast, Kevin. Again, the John Hughes connection, but a lot of it I think goes back to that scene from Uncle Buck where he's asking John Candy all those questions. Yeah. And it's like, you know, where do you live? Have you got a car? Yeah. And all this, and what's your job? What's your record for? And then John Candy goes, what's your record for asking questions and all that? I think they saw, you know, as he was even younger, making that the potential that he then had as to why he obviously got picked for Home Alone as sort of the next film, really. But yeah, the connection with John Candy, he's done, I think, just about more John Hughes stuff than I think anybody, they were saying on the documentary. But yeah, they said, so he got paid $414 for the day.
Wow. Yeah.
And they said on the documentary, to film everything that they had to do with him in that day, he was just like, yeah, okay, whatever it's going to take. They said we took 23 hours of his day.
Wow.
So it's a pretty low rate of pay.
Yeah, Yeah, but it kind of just shows what he is if he was doing it as a favour. And it's like that they probably had to pay him that. There's probably some weird sort of a legislation thing, wasn't it, that they had to give him that?
I think it was the minimum payment under the rules at the time or something for what was expected to be paid for that day. Yeah. And I think normally it would be a day, but you wouldn't do 23 hours either. You know, it would have been like you'd be there for 10. But yeah, he obviously did it as a favour. And again, he's only a cameo part really in it. And the interchange between him and, of course, Catherine O'Hara, particularly obviously at the airport, but in the van, because they'd worked together for so long as part of Second City Television. in Canada, and with Eugene Levy, who then of course worked with Catherine in Schitt's Creek. So that connection, you could see them sort of bouncing off each other in the van. It's quite good, really.
But that's what I was going to say. So even though he was only in it for a short time, so obviously the emotional pivot of the film, other than the whole abandonment issue and then the reconnecting, was with the neighbour. But just those 5 minutes with John Candy where they're in the van and she's like saying that she's a terrible mother, and he's like, look around, none of us are brilliant parents in here. He goes, he hasn't seen his kid at all, or he hasn't seen him for like 5 years. And it was just, it was said in a tongue-in-cheek way, but you kind of, when you're watching it, and I think one of the things is this is a film that as a kid I loved the slapstick, I loved the violence in it, right? The overt humour, but and I'll be honest, I really disliked that middle bit with the neighbour bit. I was like, I just want to get to where the villains get like their head burnt off and a paint can in the face. But as an adult, and when you go through things, you can look at those elements and it kind of hits home a bit more. So you can not necessarily appreciate it, but those moments in the film that as a kid you think, oh God, they're boring, why are they slowing the film down? You realise, well, yeah, those are for the older people watching it, and it's to really pull at their heartstrings, right?
Yeah.
You've not seen our document, Dan, on this, but what you just touched on there is it's literally as if you'd actually seen it.
Spoilers then, sorry.
No, not at all, because I think one of the scenes you've played into really well there is the one with the neighbour, Old Man Marley, played by Robert Blossom, in the church, which obviously is the kind of preamble to the big event. But I think when you're right, when you watch that as an adult, given Culkin's age and obviously the vast age difference between the two actors, I actually think that's one of the best scenes in terms of like within the film, and obviously the backdrop with the church and the music and everything in the background and whatnot. Yeah, that is quite a poignant scene in what is a film of chaos and mayhem and all the rest of it. That's quite touching, with a real message, isn't there, in that as well, about family and Christmas and all the different things that Old Man Marley's obviously been experiencing, and then what Kevin's been experiencing, and those two perspectives coming together. It's actually quite a great interchange between the two of them, and again, testimony, I guess, to them hiring Culkin of what he was capable of at such a young age, really.
Yeah, I mean, the neighbour is in it for 10 minutes in the film, so the fact that that's almost like a throwaway bit of the film, but the emotion that's punched into that or packed into that. Because it's probably a 90-minute film or so. So to have that in it, but it still means something, is actually really well done. Really well done.
I think so. I think rewatching it, I was very much like you, actually, Dan. When I was younger, I found, why is he talking to the old guy? Like, now you're watching it and you're going, oh, actually, yeah, this is really... like you say, it tugs at the heartstrings and it does get you quite emotional towards the end. And I think you needed that extra thing, not just the family coming back. And it was more, obviously, his mom coming back, the whole of the family. I think like they tried to play a few little laughs, don't they, when the whole family turn up. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things in this film that you suddenly realise, oh, that's something that you kind of understand as you get older, why it's in there. And I think they played it very well with the second film as well, doing the similar thing with the lady in the park with the pigeons. Yeah. And I think that's something they did do a very good job of doing in those first two films. T.A, I don't know if you've got any more facts you want to have for this film, and then we can maybe have a little bit of a chat about the sequels
and stuff.
And then I've got a few notes on the film that I've made to go through as well. And then I know we have my little final surprise that we have.
Another one.
Rich has been using his imagination, shall we say. But before we come to that, is there any other reflections you've got on the film, Dan?
Just literally just one, again, which is something I'd forgotten about. And then when I watched it, I remembered it, is that, again, it's a great film in its own right. You've got the setup, you've got the emotional core, you've got the payoff at the end with the shenanigans. But the funny thing is that, a couple of times where they play, because I think as a kid, every kid's nightmare is being alone, right? Being left alone. So, when he goes into the basement and the fire place comes alive. It's the only bit of oddness in that film, if you know what I mean. And I think it just taps into that kid's imagination, and it's that little bit of fear that he does have, you know, because otherwise he comes across as this like mini Rambo, basically, otherwise. And I found that a really interesting thing, that they put this almost like this imagination bit in there just to kind of balance out that he is a kid who has got the fears of like dark places or places that are eerie to him.
Yeah, I suppose you've got to try and show that he is a kid. I mean, a bit like where he's walking back from the shops and the carrier bags collapse. I'd like to say that wouldn't happen to me as an adult, but it would. So
Brilliant, yeah.
But one of the other big facts for this, we've touched on the burglars brief, because again, they're a big part of this. Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern really, aren't they, for the most part? And I don't know whether you know another Dan, of course, but did you know that he nearly missed out on this, Dan Stern, because there was a pay dispute, essentially, where he'd agreed $300,000 for 6 weeks of filming. And then when they told him the schedule had got to be extended to 8, he asked for a raise, and they said no. They said, like, there's no extra cash, because obviously they, as we talked about with the budget for the film earlier, they were, I think, pretty tight. And they went like, sorry, can't do it. So he kind of pulled out, and they brought somebody else in. And basically, I don't know who it was, but they didn't connect and have the same chemistry with Joe Pesci, and the scenes weren't really working as well. So they went back to Stern and said, look, all right, we'll commit back to 6 weeks, because we cannot give you any more money, but we'll do everything to wrap you up in 6 weeks for the $300,000. So he went, yeah, okay, no problem. And then when it came to the sequel, which we're going to come to obviously in a minute, but he initially, they offered him $600,000 for the sequel. Okay. And he was like, he negotiated an increase to $800,000. But what he didn't know was that Joe Pesci was being paid between $2 and $3 million.
Wow.
plus a gross percentage of the profits from the film. So Daniel Stern said to his agent, you know, I'm not very happy with this. And his agent went, I think you should just accept the $800,000, mate. So he basically parted ways with his agent and went, I'm not happy with that. And went back in, and he asked for $1.5 million and 2% of the gross profits. And in the end, they agreed the $1.5 million and 1% of gross profits. So he obviously wouldn't have got as much as Joe Pesci, but he obviously felt like he'd negotiated a better deal where he was getting probably the raw end of that deal.
Especially after what you said the first film made, right? So, yeah.
But I think a lot of that was Joe Pesci had obviously won the Oscar, hadn't he, for Goodfellas, and so he was on a bit of a roll, I guess, at that time and whatnot. So he was maybe the higher prominent person. But it's just a good one. And I think, Rich, you've got a...
I was just going to say, T.A., from you sort of saying that, what I found really interesting about that and Daniel Stern obviously having the weeks that he was recording for cut. Do you think in that opening scene when Joe Pesci's in the house dressed as the police officer, do you think that's done with just Joe Pesci because that's some of the extra parts they did and Daniel Stern just wasn't involved? Like, can you imagine maybe that in the script originally they were both supposed to be there dressed as police officers?
Yeah.
That's just come to me as you've said that.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously don't know the answer to that, but you're right. I suppose there is a potential that could be something they did film with him, obviously, when he wasn't part of that. I suppose anything they could do to compact that timing would be necessary to meet the schedule. But you have one other interesting fact, Rich.
Is this my Uncle Frank fact?
Oh, no, you got another fact then.
Yeah, so Macaulay Culkin actually ad-libbed a line in the supermarket. So the bit where he's obviously paying for the products and the lady behind the checkout actually asks him where his mom is and she wants to know his name and where he lives. And he's like, I can't tell you that. And she says, why? And he actually ad-libbed the line, because you're a stranger. And I thought that was quite good. And that's something he did mention recently on an interview as well. But the other sort of big fact that I found out quite recently is Uncle Frank in the original script hires the Wet Bandits.
Oh, really?
And it did make me wonder, upon the rewatch, Uncle Frank's is a bit of an arse, let's be honest. And they're all really concerned about Kevin, but he never is. Like, when they actually get to the airport and the rest of the family all go off, he then, when they're sort of waiting in their accommodation, he's there with all this food and he's like, oh yeah, look at this. And you can see them all being like, oh, we're worried about Kevin. And it does make you wonder if parts of that were still going to be done in the script. And maybe that's, again, the thing with Daniel Stern not doing as much in those weeks. Maybe they did rewrite portions of it or something changed. But that's something I read quite recently that, Uncle Frank was supposed to have hired them.
I'm glad they didn't go with that, because that would make the film darker then, right?
Yeah, I think
that then takes it out of being that nice, fun sort of comedy to, this family needs some intervention, right?
I mean, they left the line in as well on the plane, didn't they? Where, when she realises Catherine O'Hara has that sort of moment of Kevin. And then when they come back to them and they're like, we're trying to, the captain's trying to get through and all the rest of your phone lines are down. And he does the throwaway of, if it makes you feel any better, I forgot my reading glasses.
Yes.
So you're right. He's very sort of ambivalent throughout, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He's not here. I don't care.
Well, I kind of put it down to the fact that they were just showing how really, like, Kevin was the runt of the family sort of thing, but when you say it in that context, it's a bit more sinister, isn't it? But the only other thing about the first film especially is the day we all found out that film within the film wasn't a real film. Angels with filthy faces, right? Your Christmas jumper. I mean, that was a terrible day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Dan, that is today for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is genuinely news to me. I did not know that.
Did you not know that's not a real film?
No.
Have I ruined Christmas? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
No, I did not know that. That's brilliant. That makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, but they shot that specifically for Wow.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I just thought that was a really clever thing they did. And then, when you find out it's not real, it's like you're thinking, wow, that's actually very clever then.
And that also plays in a little bit to the kind of things of growing up, wasn't it? Where kids wanted to watch adult films and on VHS became a big thing in the home. So the risk or the availability of that, where I'm sure many of us watched films that were classified above our age in the 90s. And it kind of played into that a little bit as well, didn't it? Where, he was not allowed to watch it when the adults were around, because I think that gets mentioned. But then, of course, when they've gone away, there he is straight away, puts it on, and he's eating his ice cream and all the rest of it. And then he gets scared. And it's that, again, that constant reminder of he's just a kid, isn't it? And in the end, a kid with an engineering degree, as it turns out, but still is a child. But yeah.
Well, even, I'll get to it in some of my notes from the thing, but like when he's got the air rifle and he's practicing with the targets, he's very good with that, Kevin.
Yeah.
And you do think, what's going on? But yeah, we've mentioned the sequels, and I think without going into them too much, obviously the second film is very good. I think a lot of people actually prefer the second film, and I have no issue with that. For me, I think the first one is probably the best one. But then they do this really strange thing. So there's a third film, which I haven't seen. Completely different characters, different actors. Is that the one with Scarlett Johansson in it, Dan? Is that the right one?
Yeah. But at that point, they might as well just call the film "Kid Does Violent Things to Intruders," because it just feels like that's all they're doing, right? It's Home Alone in name only, I think, at that point.
Well, I'm just, because I have seen Home Alone 4 randomly. Home Alone 4, the one with Kevin McAllister, but it's not Macaulay Culkin. It's some random kid. The mom and dad have split up. You have Marv as the burglar, played by the guy from Third Rock from the Sun, except he dresses like Harry, and it's so bad. It's really poor. It's blatantly like a made-for-video type thing, and didn't really enjoy it. And I think they did another film after that, but recently they've done the Home Sweet Home Alone as the sort of the Disney Plus version, and I haven't seen that either. I know that the twist of it is you're supposed to feel sympathy for the burglars rather than the kid. But it is that thing of like Home Alone for me. Those first two films are Home Alone. Everything that's come after it, everything they're going to ever try and do. It's a bit like the Terminator franchise. It's like you catch lightning in a bottle once, amazing. If you can do it twice, you're lucky. After that, you're just really starting to push your luck.
I think actually in that point, Home Alone 2, you mentioned Terminator. I think it's one of those things again where the sequel really stands up. As well. It's obviously it's done in a different way, obviously with him going to New York and whatnot, but they brought essentially the cast back, which is always great when they sort of bring everybody, the family, are all in it again. I mean, weirdly, the old man Marley character, of course, in this is played by Brenda Fricker, who we'll all remember from Casualty or whatever, wasn't it, back in the day, finds herself sort of playing a homeless person in Central Park. It was quite an interesting choice.
There's another big cameo in that one as well, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. Rich is going to look at me now going, don't you dare.
Do it, just do it.
Just do it. What bit where...
Do it, just do it. Don't talk about it, just do it, because then it'll keep the
hallway's just down there, okay. Okay, no problem. You can use my hotel as long as I get this moment, okay.
There you go. I mean, on the sequel, I agree it stands up. But I got to say I prefer the first. I think the second is just too similar. I think it is just. I mean, what I will say though is I love New York. So seeing New York, that's for me is brilliant. And look, and it is great because it is the original cast and Macaulay Culkin makes that right. But yeah, I think it's just too similar in setup for me. That's the only thing.
I think you're right on that, Dan, to be fair. I think there's a few little bits and you sort of go, oh, you kind of did that same thing in the first one. But I do think it still, as a sequel, as we've said, it still holds up in a way so many others don't. So I think that's a really good...
Yeah, I think the cast see it through as well, I think, because you're right. The third one I've seen once, and I've seen it because it was on TV. I was around someone's house and it was on, so I watched it. And I raised a few laughs, but... yeah, I wouldn't go back to it. Now, ultimately, like you said, they're doing the same. I haven't even seen the fourth, but it's the same setup. But you're taking away a lot of the charm when you're taking away Catherine O'Hara, when you're taking away Joe Pesci. I mean, look, Joe Pesci as well. I mean, who'd have thought he could do a role like that when you've been watching him in Casino and Goodfellas, right? It's that cast that take it above a potentially average made-for-TV film and make it, that blockbuster.
I have got a few things I just did as some notes from the film. And one of the things I do have to bring up, I mentioned it a bit earlier, the Confused Breakfast podcast. It's absolutely fantastic. They just watch movies. So they do a bit on Home Alone and they talk about how does Peter McAllister afford the house?
Yes.
And the theory is that he works for the mob.
Okay.
And so he's got all this money. He comes down the stairs and sees Joe Pesci dressed as a copper. He doesn't bat an eyelid. He cracks a joke about getting arrested because he knows the police won't touch him. The kids don't bat an eyelid at the fact that there's a cop there. Kevin doesn't call the police from his own house when everything happens at the end. There's like this big thing about it. And it's really well done. I will get the clip and I'll try and get that shared and also put on the podcast socials if I can. I'll see if we can find a way to make that happen. But there's some really interesting things that I did find in the film as well. Obviously, we mentioned the thing with Buzz eating the pizza so quickly. But there's some really strange bits that happen. So Harry obviously dresses as the cop at the start of the film and he's casing the joint and he's trying to find out when they're away. He didn't need to do any of that because Mitch Murphy, the neighbour's kid, that kid can't keep his mouth shut. He's there going, oh, yeah, we're going away. We're doing this to the taxi man. He's telling him all this stuff. We're going away. And I mean, all Joe Pesci had to do was rock up. He didn't have to get dressed up as a cop or anything. The kid would have been like, oh, yeah, my family are doing this. They're going away at this time. So that was one of my sort of notes from it that I sort of realised, oh, they could have got away with that without actually doing the whole charade of dressing as a cop. When they miss the flight and they get up late, they only have 25 minutes to get to the airport and then the flight's leaving. I'm not being funny, but Like, how do they manage that? Because the flight actually waits for them and they get there and they're like, yes, you're on time, but we need to get you through straight away. I'm thinking that would not happen. There's also, like I said, Kevin being such a good shot with the air rifle. There's also the thing where if you're playing into that mob thing, how many of the neighbours have the surname with an M? Like Old Man Marley, is that his surname? You've got the Murphys, you've got the McAllisters. And when Joe Pesci gets it like burnt onto his hand, the M. So well, why have they got an M on there when every single person in the street seems to have an M in their surname? Going back to the mob thing, Peter actually says, can we bump somebody to get on a flight? What, bump them off? So there's a few little bits with that. I don't know. Now, this, I don't know whether either of you will get this or not. Dan, you might, I'm hoping. Kate gets a plane ticket when she needs to get back from Paris. She makes a trade with Mrs. Feldman from Police Academy 4.
Oh, yeah, that's where yes.
In order to get the ticket, where Kevin knows that the wet bandits are coming to rob the house. When he goes to the church, an Old Man Marley sees him and they start chatting, and he realizes what the time is and he runs back to the house. The front door is unlocked. He literally just goes up and opens the door and he's in the house. So for all of this, I've got to defend my house from these burglars. He's just left it completely unsecured prior to them arriving. But the one thing I do think going into the sequel, Marv is walking up the basement. And obviously as he's walking up, his shoes get quite sticky because Kevin has put that tar on the steps, and so he takes his shoes off and he starts stepping and he steps on that nail and he falls down. However, because Kevin put all that tar on there and all the sticky stuff, did Kevin inspire the name from the second movie of the Sticky Bandits?
Possibly.
And that is my my random notes there for Home Alone from my rewatch that I made.
I was just thinking it was great because I didn't know what Rich was going to come out with there. But the bit where you say, obviously, he runs through the door and he's not locked it. Wouldn't it have been so funny if he could run in and everything had already just gone? And it sort of turned out that the wet bandits had got the time wrong.
The clocks had gone back. Or something.
It's sort of like, we thought we'd go earlier. But yeah, you're right. I suppose there's anything you can find bits if you're looking at it. But your mob theory is certainly interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing Dan's reaction to Rich has really let his imagination run wild here. Okay, I don't think Christopher Columbus will be on the phone, but you never know. Maybe somebody else might pick this up. Away you go, Rich.
So Dan, you know how we spoke about the sequels and the law of diminishing returns?
Yeah.
And we've spoken about the various films out there, not just Home Alone, that do it. I've had an idea for a Home Alone sequel.
Okay.
So I'm going to pitch it to you.
All right.
And I want to know what you think. So basically, the film is going to open very similar to the original movie with this house, this really nice house. Again, we're going to have a cop. He's going to be there. He's going to be talking to the lady of the house, getting information from her as we've got all this stuff going on around her, this family, all this chaos. We're going to have all that kind of stuff happening again. And he's going to say to her, well, where's your husband? And she'll be like, oh, well, he's away on business. He's going to meet us when we get to Paris. And you kind of go through all of that sort of thing. We do something where one of the kids causes a bit of trouble. Maybe it's one of their siblings eats all the pizza again or something like that. And gets thrown up into a room and forgotten about. But crucially, that child is not left home alone. They realise the error of their ways and they go. We then start to see the burglars, slowly but surely as Christmas has approached, they are now, there's like a giant team of these burglars. So rather than the wet bandits, you've got to think more along the lines of like your Ocean's 11 or something. There's a group of them all planning this big heist on this road. And you see all these cars turn up and all the burglars, they're going from house to house, one set of them at one end of the street, one at the other, and they're all just going up the street doing it, with the final house being the one in the middle, the big high ticket item of the house. So they're doing that. as this is going on, you see a car pull up to that house, the main house in the middle. You see the feet of somebody getting out of the car, walking in. You see the coat come off, hung up on the hook, briefcase thrown down onto the sofa. And you just keep seeing these burglars going through these houses. They're starting to get closer and closer to this central house. As you see them approaching, one of them makes a noise outside, and you kind of just see this noise. You hear the guy who's gone into the house hears this noise, and he reaches for his briefcase. He opens the briefcase, and inside is a book that says Home Alone by Kevin McAllister. And we learn that the person home alone is not a kid. It is a grown Kevin McAllister. And under the book, as he pulls it away, is a gun. And he goes full John Wick on every single one of these burglars.
I'm sold. Let's do it. Make it happen. There's got to be someone out there, right?
You got to do something so out there, so crazy, so different.
But that would be the meta of metaest things to do for that, right? It would be that would be how you continue that franchise on, and think of the generation of people you're going to have that would want to watch that.
I think it'd be brilliant. I mean, obviously, someone else would have to pitch it because I'd be awful at it. But yeah,
are you pitching that Macaulay Culkin would reprise?
I genuinely think that'd be brilliant. I think if they were going to do a Home Alone now, I mean. The only other thing, take the silly John Wick element out of it. You could genuinely have, he's left home alone somehow as an adult, and he's got to defend his house from these burglars with all this newfangled tech that he can't get to work. So he's like hunting around for micro machines and all the things he used, and he can't find them. So he's got to use all these stupid bits of tech that don't do anything.
Or it's even better, like he opens the cupboard and there's just a box of Christmas decorations, and he says, "Who needs these?" and throws them out, and then you see the box of weapons underneath it.
That's fantastic.
And surely it's got to end with Catherine O'Hara coming back in through the front door and going, "Kevin!" Oh, not again. You know what I mean? Even now she'd obviously be a much older version or something like that. I don't know. Or next door neighbour is either Joe Pesci or Daniel Stern walking out going, "Oh, not him again." You know, something to kind of complete it. But let's face it, based on what we've said about everything that came after Home Alone 2, 3 and onwards, really, this would bring it back in a unique style.
I just think they need to do something if they're going to try again. I think they've tried this thing with the kids being home alone. It never works, and I think a big part of it is Macaulay Culkin. I think he was so good in those films, and like you said, Dan, in the second film especially, he really does carry it. For such a young actor at the time to be doing that, it's really good for sort of looking back, and obviously Macaulay's acting career is kind of ended now. He doesn't really do a lot of acting, and it's actually Kieran who's done a lot more, and of course winning the Oscar this year. But yeah, I think then if they are going to bring it back, and I'm guessing they probably will at some point because it's Disney now that own the property, and I think they've sort of shown they have no shame when it comes to rebooting things and bringing things back that there's no call for. Thinking of like the live action remakes of some of their animated films and things like that. They'll try it again, and I think it's such a shame if they do keep doing that and just constantly getting that law of diminishing returns and it not working.
So ultimately, what we're saying here is, if you're listening out there, we will write this for you. I'll even put the third book on hold to write this with Rich and Dan, and we'll bring this to you. There you go. There's the pitch. I have one other idea slightly off this that we haven't spoke about that's just come into my head. I don't know whether we're going to go with this, but obviously last year's episode, we covered our top 3 Christmas films. Can I put Dan on the spot?
Yeah.
You have a top 3 Christmas films?
Yeah. No particular order, but Jingle All the Way is out there for me. I have to see Jingle All the Way. I love that. It's not the best film, but there's just something about it that, and again, there's the slapstick bit in that, again, it's just, I mean, I don't have kids, right? But it's just that thing about that parent desperate to get that toy. You know, we've all been in the shops when every year there's that must get toy, right? So yeah, Jingle All the Way. One I've had to bump up because it's become a favourite in our house, and I'll say it because of my wife. But it's the Netflix one, Kurt Russell. Is it Christmas Chronicles?
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That one, the first one though, not
Yeah.
so much the second one. And there's that whole scene in the prison, you know, where they're singing the song. It's like the because what's his face? It was in Bruce Springsteen's band, wasn't it? So that's a fun film. And then, if you'd allow me a joint third, because Home Alone would be in there, but the Muppets Christmas Carol.
Okay.
I love the Muppets Christmas Carol. So yeah, those would be my three.
Excellent. Really good choices in there as well. Some really different ones to us as well
Yes.
from our list, which is brilliant.
So many though, isn't there now? That's the thing. I tried last year. We tried to watch some that we hadn't watched before, and the thing is, there's a lot of dross out there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all I was going to say is the thing is, like we've been talking about Home Alone. Home Alone has shown that you don't have to get too schmaltzy, and Christmas doesn't have to be rammed down the throat, you know, all the time. And Die Hard, the number one Christmas film of all time, shows that, you know, again, the film doesn't have to be, you don't have to play too much on Christmas itself. It's the reason for the characters being where they are. The film should then take over. And I think that's probably the problem that a lot of these films has, because it's about, you know, we've got to jam 100 Christmas references or make it overly schmaltzy because it's Christmas. No, have a good film set at Christmas. Do you know what I mean?
With you mentioning Die Hard, I can't not reference the fact, if you get chance, go and watch the one-man Die Hard show that's been touring.
Yes,
Went to see
yeah.
that. Is absolutely brilliant. So
Okay.
good. But yeah, obviously, Die Hard was my second favourite Christmas film. And I actually watched them in order every Christmas Eve. So this is quite sad. I've actually not watched Home Alone since last Christmas. But yeah, I watched Home Alone's the first one, and then Die Hard's the final film going into Christmas Day. Mrs. Shelano tolerates it. Still, for now. But yeah. So is there anything else you'd like to add about Home Alone, Dan? Or
No, just I think the only other two things I had in my head was Daniel Stern's scream with the spider. Brilliant. You know, you can be a brilliant actor, but can you scream like that? That was great. And I just loved at the end, you know, where they're caught. And he's so proud to be like the wet bandits. He's saying that's us, and the police is, and like Marv's going, shut up. And they're going, right, well, we can now finger you for every other crime that you've done because you've told us what you've done. And he's like so proud, and Marv's getting so angry at him. Yeah.
You've reminded me.
Or Harry, sorry, if I mixed the names up, I think, sorry. But yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, I love that to the end. It just shows that they go from being fairly sinister-ish to being bumbling again, you know.
The bit with the screams reminded me, you know, when the spider then goes off and it ends up, and sort of Joe Pesci's laying out there and the spider's like, and he's got the, you know, ready to with the crowbar. But there's a scene we talked earlier about how good they were at showing an adult doing stunt work for Macaulay. There is, unfortunately, I obviously watched the film an awful lot. There's a bit in the frame where you can see that it's not a real spider at that moment, and they've replaced it with, you know, a toy or something. And there's just that split second on screen where you can tell as he's about to hit him. I mean, very minor criticism, but you can, if you look, I've watched this film too many times that I know that. But yeah, that is there.
Well, I think that's kind of brought us to the end of this Christmas special. I want to say a big thank you to you, Dan, for joining us.
Thank you again, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas indeed. Is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to, or anything else that you'd like to talk about just before we go?
I want to shout out, my co-host on Gaming Views, Dan H. I mean, I know you've had him on here as well. Great guy. Yeah. So I would just say, listen to our podcast if you're into anything gaming, and Casting Views will be back. We'll be back. It's been on hiatus a bit longer because of new jobs and falling downstairs and things like that. But it will be back soon. It will be back soon.
Fantastic. And we'll put some links to those in the description. But I think all that's left to say now is Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
And in honour of my jumper, Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
Thank you very much.
Want more middle-aged podcast in your life? Of course you do. Follow us on social media for behind-the-scenes stuff, extra larks, and all our latest updates.
We're on Instagram and Threads at Middle-aged Bodcast.
Facebook's easier. Just head to facebook.com/middle-aged podcast.
If you're still hanging on to Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, we're at Middle-aged Bodcast.
And if you're on Blue Sky, it's at middleagedpodcast.bsky.social.
Or you can swing by our website, middleagedpodcast.co.uk.
Give us a follow and stay in the loop.
Cheers for listening.